Good evening, Yorktown, and welcome to the town board meeting for Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. If everyone can please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the
and to
republic
the
for which
for which it stands,
one nation,
one
under
nation,
God,
under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice
for all.
Everyone can please join me in a moment of silence as we remember the lights of the candle of the menorah as we lit the candle last week with Rabbi Haber. And we always remember his call to be ambassadors of light during such challenging times. But that light is at the end of that long tunnel. And we remember all those who are being impacted by COVID-19. We remember our frontline workers, remember our first responders, our police officers, and our military personnel who are serving overseas defending our freedoms during this holiday period. Thank you. Again, my name is Matt Slater, Town Supervisor, joined by Councilwoman Alice Roker, Councilman Ed Lachterman, Councilman Vishnu Patel. Councilman Tom Diana is not well this evening, and we wish him our best. We are also joined by our Town Clerk, Diana Quast. We have our Town Attorney, Adam Rodriguez, and our Highway Superintendent, Dave Paganelli. Looks like Adam and Dave are having a staring contest with each other.
Yeah.
We also have with us our Comptroller, Pat Caparel.
Money girl.
Just a couple of announcements to make tonight as we begin. We have coming up on December 17th, as everyone remembers, we've partnered with Sustainable Westchester to provide some incredible community solar opportunities for our community. There will be a community information session on December 17th at 12 p.m. There is a registration link on the town's website. You have to register to be able to participate. But this is an information session with Sustainable Westchester so that folks who have received those letters and they continue to be mailed out by Sustainable Westchester can learn more about the community solar program, how you can benefit from entering into the community solar program through Sustainable Westchester, which provides a 10% discount on your electric bill while also helping us combat climate change by utilizing solar energy. For those who didn't see, the Catskill Aqueduct repairs began, I believe it was this point, it was last week. That's being done by the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. They'll be draining a portion of the Catskill Aqueduct into Hunter Brook. That began on Tuesday. The water will be released into Hunter Brook near the intersection of Hunter Brook Road and White Hill Road. During the drainage, there will be a controlled release of water into Hunter Brook at a rate of approximately 78 gallons per second. If the valve malfunctions, an uncontrolled release of up to 351 gallons per second may occur for about half an hour. Hunter Brook has ample capacity to handle an uncontrolled release and contain the full flow of water, according to the New York City DEC. After the drainage, repairs will begin on that portion. This is, for those who don't know, the Catskill Aqueduct is actually 105 years old. Residents with concerns about the water release or the construction can call the project manager for the site at 646-877-7594. Again, that's 646-877-7594. I'm not going to take the firepower away from our highway superintendent. I know he's going to be talking about the upcoming weather event, but we do have from AAA Karting, depending on the weather, if the trucks are unable to go out for their collection on Thursday morning, they plan on pushing Thursday collections to Friday and Friday collections to Saturday, but that's going to be a game time decision by AAA Karting. So again, I ask all of our residents, if you haven't signed up to receive the emails notifications from the town, please do so, because we'll email this information out once it becomes available. Also, continue to monitor our social media accounts, both Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. We'll continue to keep everyone updated as the storm comes and any decisions that are made by the town. I want to remind everyone again about Ride Connect. Ride Connect's a program of Family Services of Westchester. It's an all-volunteer-based transportation program for those over the age of 60. And during the pandemic, Ride Connect has continued its mission by providing rides to medical appointments. And in an effort to keep our older adults as safe as possible during COVID-19, they've also continued with their Shop and Drop program. Their volunteers have continued to shop and deliver essential groceries and goods to local seniors or those who have compromised immune systems. All this is done in an effort to allow those most at risk for this virus to remain safe at home. In addition to the Shop and Drop program, Ride Connect continues to provide volunteers for food and essential item distribution events around Westchester and Putnam counties. So if you or someone you know would benefit from this program, and if someone would like to volunteer or sign up, you just call the center at 914-242-7433. Again, that's 914-242-7433 if you need to take advantage of this program or if you'd like to volunteer for this program. And we appreciate all they've done for the residents of Yorktown, especially during this difficult time. Our building department actually reconfirmed some of the shopping hours for our seniors and immunocompromised. As everyone can remember, in the spring, there were designated hours for our seniors and immunocompromised to shop at our local grocery stores. And they confirmed those again. BJ's, Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. is for seniors and immunocompromised. Sunday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., they do allow first responders to enter as well. The Acme of Shrub Oak, Monday through Sunday, 7 to 8 a.m. is for seniors and immunocompromised. The Acme of Yorktown Heights, Tuesday and Thursday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Uncle Giuseppe's, Monday through Sunday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Again, this is for seniors and immunocompromised. And DeChico's is Monday through Sunday, 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Again, just times that are set aside specifically for our seniors and immunocompromised in case you do need to go to the store to stock up on any items. And before, I know again that our highway superintendent is going to speak on this, but a friendly reminder from our firefighters. I know that Mohegan Volunteer Fire District had put out something on Facebook. But fire hydrant hearing notice, just as a reminder that it is according to the town code that the fire hydrant should be free from snow and ice. So again, I know that we're expecting, and Dave will provide more detail, but you have 48 hours of a snowstorm to clear your fire hydrants. And it's a very important reminder for those as we prepare for the upcoming storm, as those snow blowers get ready. I got mine ready over the weekend. As your snow blowers get ready, don't forget to take care of those fire hydrants. The last thing I do want to mention also has to do with Halleck's Mills Sewer. We did receive word, and I received a copy from the county that the right of objection letter has been circulated to all interested parties. This is a really important milestone in the entire process and project. And so we are continuing to make steady progress to, again, secure the $10 million that's been allocated from DEP so that we can move the Halleck's Mills Sewer project along on its trajectory. Again, for those folks who remember, the Halleck's Mill first phase is really geared around the Sparkle Lake area. But I want to be very clear, this isn't a tomorrow thing. We still have quite a ways to go until we'll be breaking ground, but this is still a very important milestone in that entire process. And I do want to thank all involved for getting us there. And that concludes my report to the town. Again, I do want to wish everyone happy Hanukkah who are celebrating. I want to thank Rabbi Haber for hosting a fantastic menorah lighting last weekend. And I also want to thank Monsignor Gene Durko, Judge Salagonia, and Gary Cusano, as well as the dignitaries who joined us at the Christmas tree lighting. And that both the menorah and the Christmas tree are over at Veterans Field. That's the field that's by the track. And for those at the Christmas tree, I'm sure Councilman Lachman will talk about it, but continue to encourage everyone to drop off or hang their ornaments of hope. And there's some really inspiring Christmas ornaments over there right now. Talk about and emphasize unity and hope and community, and special tributes to our frontliners during this very, very stressful time. But again, we're continuing to encourage residents, especially during a snow day that I think we're going to be having. It might be a good day to get those crafts out and make an extra ornament or two, and feel free to go hang it on the Christmas tree for the town and for everyone to see. With that, I'll go over to Councilwoman Alice Roker. Councilwoman?
Yeah, I just want to add to when she talked about Rabbi Haber, be the light. That is so important, and today's times that, we all, each one of us, can contribute whatever we can to be the light, and in whatever way you can. And I did want to wish, in particular, the emergency services, the hospital workers, the people who came to work in supermarkets during the point in which we were shut down. I really want to wish them a happy and safe holiday season.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilwoman. We'll go to Councilman Patel.
I'm going to say something with I will not repeat anybody said anything else, but happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, and be wealthy. But let me just say something to you. Go Army and beat Navy.
15-0.
Oh, one of our community citizen, I think they moved, but they are still part of the community volunteering it. And he has 3 sons. They used to always beat me up, So this is a little revenge friendly. And every time he sees me, he just, but a very friendly smile, but sometimes, hey, no way. So congratulations, because we have 3 Army from the West Point. So I had to say something about it. So it was really nice. I mean, people were thrilled, and the president showed up, and the rest of the thing I'm going to say about let me just say something really in reference to the storm, Today I received the bill from New York State Gas Electric, and I don't think anybody ever reads it or say anything about the bill, but there are more taxes than how much I pay for the electric bill. Shall I read it? Basic service charge, delivery charge, revenue decoupling charge, BC. What the hell is going on? A supply charge. I thought you go to the gas station is just push the button and pay whatever is the bill. I have never seen nobody. And then whenever I need the light, the storm comes, so I have no lights. That means no internet, no phone, nothing. So I think we should think it like, how could they charge all these many taxes? We're supposed to be doing something. So shall we do something about this one? Someday bring it in like a discussion ourselves that, how this much money they are charging is a la carte menu. Now, the last thing I want to speak to you about is the COVID. Let me tell you, I have learned so many good things about the science in reference to the COVID, but I want to congratulate to all the scientists, those who are working since 20 years. And I don't want to give any company's name, but this is really something we never expected. They were working for the RMA instead of the DNA, but this is really, really, really unbelievable invention and vaccine to support not only the citizen of the United States, but the whole world. So light is, and we were going to see the darkness will go away and the sunshine will be there. But I still would like to talk to the people of this community, and whoever want to listen to me or not, please, even if you take a vaccine today, it may not be effective till another couple of months, and it's going to be a long time. So always practice it. Safety, personal protective equipment, safe distance, and gathering really, and specifically these 2-3 months, then you will be happy, and everybody will have happy, family will be happy, and you can have a biggest party, whatever you want to have. Happy holiday and happy New Year to everybody else. Thank you.
Great points, Councilman Patel. And just for clarification, for those who don't know, Army versus Navy football happened over the weekend. Probably the greatest rivalry in sports. But I also think it's one of the greatest stories in sports because it shows two opposing sides who just battle to the very end. But at the end of the day, when they're off the football field, they come together. And they come together to protect this country and protect every one of us. And I think that's a great lesson that so many of us here in town and across the country can learn from. Councilman Lackerman, report.
Yes. Well, I will start off first by wishing everyone a very good Hanukkah for the last few nights and hoping the light of the menorah shines throughout the year for you. I wanted to, talk about a few things real quick. Matt, you had mentioned and did a pretty good job on talking about the Ornaments of Hope that that Jimmy Poulin from the Yorktown Lions started this year with us, and they basically bring an ornament to our tree. The message should be of hope, as Matt had pointed out, as our supervisor pointed out, and just hang it up. It's a beautiful thing. It really it helps us express not only for ourselves, but it gives a message to our neighbors within the community. So it's a great thing. Another thing the Lions are doing in conjunction with the town is the holiday light decorating contest at your house. You could go online. I think it signs up on the main website. You could take some pictures, post your house, put it on the interactive map, and people could drive by. If you don't want your name there, where it says name, just give your house a name for your decorating theme, if you'd like. But it's another great thing for people to be able to go on the trail. We're looking to do that this weekend with our goddaughter if the weather cooperates with us, and take her around and see all the houses on the map. You could also go on there and vote for your houses too, give them likes on there. Another shout out to the Lions. Last week, the Lions are finding more and more ways to help the community at times like this. So our volunteer fire department is selling challenge coins for $10 each to raise funds since they lost the Fireman's Carnival this year. And the Lions got together and decided to buy $500 worth of the coins and then turn around and donate those coins back to the firehouse so they could resell them. So, really a great way to thank them, to try to show our appreciation for what they do day in and day out, all year round. I know they also have their drive out as well as our volunteer ambulance corps, that this is the time they look for hopefully some holiday donations to help them with their programs throughout the year to buy the stuff that they need and do the training that they need to do as they are all volunteer. We'll switch the shout out though to the fire department. We talk about doing innovative things and finding new ways to do things. The Santa rides on the fire truck went on as planned, and they had to alter a little bit. They asked you to stay in your driveway instead of gathering at corners. We actually saw them go by like 4 times because we were walking the dogs. The dogs actually loved it. It's probably the only time I've seen my 2 dogs behave, so they must still understand that Santa Claus is watching them. They both just sat there in the driveway, like a good boy and a good girl, just waiting for the fire truck. And then when we walked down the street, they every time they saw the fire truck, they sat down and behaved. So Santa, thank you. Keep up that good work. And then also, especially at this holiday time, we find out that there are a lot of things that we have around the corner that aren't so joyful, and we have people who maybe are dealing with drugs and alcoholism, trying to cope with today's issues. And I want to give a shout out to our police department. I know the other day they had a Narcan save, and they once again with the program of Hope Not Handcuffs passed out that information. They had another person who I understand contacted Hope Not Handcuffs and looked back to us to say, hey, I want help. And they're utilizing the program, which is just such a beautiful thing. And, the response time of our ambulances and our PD is just amazing. And, I don't know if they get enough accolades for the things they do. The other night I was actually walking and witnessed someone fall off of her little wall by her front stairs.
Oh, wow.
I covered her with my jacket, made a little pillow, called 911, and literally the response time had to be less than 4 minutes. And I think it was Ann Anderson showed up, and then two cars and an ambulance, and just great response, and we really appreciate the job that the not only the paid people but especially the volunteers do on a daily basis. And I want to make sure during this holiday season, as we think of the things we have to be grateful for, that was up there. I think that about concludes it for me.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilman Lachterman. We'll go over to the man, the myth, the legend, our Highway Superintendent, Dave Paganelli, who's monitoring outside. Are you outside right now, Dave?
Do you want me to be outside?
I mean, I don't know. Tell us what's going on with the weather.
The weather. Do I have to talk about the weather? Please. Well, I'd like to say to all our residents that celebrate Hanukkah, may the blessings and the miracle of Hanukkah shine down upon all of us. That being said, I will get into the Grinchly weather scenario. We are expecting quite a significant nor'easter. The time frame is a bit fluid, but I would say to our residents that we have to be very concerned about tomorrow, Wednesday's rush hour home, because the start time for this event could be anywhere between 2 and 5, so it can impact that. But more importantly, the rush hour on Thursday morning will be an extremely difficult scenario. The way the storm is laying out is initially it'll be a relatively light snowfall, and then somewhere in the 10 to midnight range, we should switch over to 1 inch to 2 inches an hour, which is a substantial amount of snow. At Highway, we will have somebody on our phones through the entire length of the event. So if you do have an issue, please call if it's an emergency. If you have someone that's stuck and they need our trucks to get there, certainly we will respond. That's something that we feel very strongly about, that you call us and we're able to pick up. That being said, it takes the better part of 4 hours to plow the entire town. It's relatively simple math. If we're getting 2 inches of snow an hour, and it's by the time we get back to where we started, we've got 8 inches of snow on the ground. We're anticipating anywhere from 14 to 18 inches total snowfall. I think we're north of the sleet line, which is good because that won't be such an issue. There will be some strong winds, although not gale force as is being experienced now. It's shifted south to the Long Island, South and North Shore areas. But we will have substantial winds, and I'm sure we'll have trees down. The supervisor and I have both been in contact with Coniston and NYSEG with respect to their response to how they would deal with trees down in the midst of a nor'easter. So that's pretty much it. We're ready to go. All the departments. We don't. For those of you that don't know, Yorktown doesn't have shift work. Our people are out from the beginning of the storm to the end of the storm. There comes a time when they have to rest, and we try to break them for 4 hours. That's not a lot of sleep, but it keeps them at least alert and safe on the roads. So there will be a time when there will not be people on the roads. We try to plan that when you're asleep, but if we're experiencing that 1 to 2 inches and it's through the later part of the evening, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, 1 to 2 inches an hour, we may break earlier. So just try to be home, hunker down. It's not as appealing as it was, prior to the COVID scenario, but you're getting used to it. Yorktown is as strong as the supervisor says. We lead from the front, and we're tough. So this was not a big deal. We'll get through it. Just try to be patient and not get yourselves aggravated, and be prepared for any possible power outages. With respect to, and generators in particular, make sure they're far enough away from the home. Don't let that poisonous gas get into your house. Have a flashlight ready. Make sure you have blankets ready, in case we lose heat. It's just, it's the standard thing. Try to be self-sufficient for at least 24 hours. And within 24 hours, it should all be over. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
David, can I say something? Thank you for putting the magnesium and sodium chloride solution, because this will help in the beginning, because people are not used to having, driving in the snow, and when a first storm comes, so this was really very nice that you were able to, spread around the town, and this is the first defense against snow, So as long as it does not snow on Patel's Driveway, let it snow. This is a little humor for you, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
We'll continue to be in touch with the residents, as you and I have discussed.
Yes, sir.
Throughout the morning tomorrow and into the storm. And again, both the highway superintendent and I have both spoken with our respective contacts at Con Ed and ISEG to make sure that they're doing everything they can in case there is a power outage. We're going to go over to our poet laureate, John McMullen. Good evening, John.
Good evening, man.
Good evening, John.
Good evening.
Tad longer than I normally do. A pandemic epic. Background. My wife and I have been in quasi-isolation since the arrival of COVID-19. She teaches online at 3 colleges and rarely leaves the house, other than to start a car. I always masked and gloved, do all the shopping, and collect the many Amazon deliveries at the post office. Now, our house in even greater lockdown since a clerk in a local deli contracted the virus and was out of work for 22 days and gave it to his mother, who spent 7 days in a hospital. I only leave the house every 2 or 3 days and wear the plastic shield over my mask. So I scurry to the post office and deli, and occasionally to the supermarket, drugstore, the laundry, vet, pet groomer. A lot of time-consuming responsibility when I awake on one of the sojourns, but I've become like a well-oiled machine, having everything down to a science. Just the day before yesterday, I went to the drugstore, post office, and supermarket for a very large order. Well, okay, there were a few minor glitches. The drugstore went well. I picked up a prescription with no difficulty. All was well so far. Then to the post office, a bag full of mail and 6 packages, Starbucks cold brew, unsweetened, 2 cases, books, 3 terabyte USB drive, vitamins. I open all of the boxes and break them up right at the post office and throw them away so that I can safely take the contents immediately into the house. Another job well done. Now off to the supermarket. Oops, I left the list at home for the big order. No big deal. Drive home, unload the post office loot, explain my malfeasance, retrieve the list. I'm back on the job. And a lot of time in the supermarket getting a lot of stuff. Fresh vegetables, fish, smoked and raw, pasta, steak, sushi, soup, eggs, milk, tonic, ginger ale, ice cream, sorbet, candy. $276 worth of stuff and all. I pushed the shopping cart out to the car, click it opened the doors and trunk. Whoops, not enough room in my Volkswagen trunk for them. No problem, there are empty boxes there from previous post office hauls. I break them up, wheel them to a trash can, dispose of them, wheel the groceries back, and pack the car. Now off for home. Where are my keys? Not where I normally put them on the dashboard, on the front seat, on the floor. I have to have them. I open the car with them. I look on the ground, in the back seat, in the trunk, on the front seat. And I do it again and again and again. I get a little agitated. Where are my keys? Did I drop them in the basket? it's long gone. Or in the trash with the boxes, I go over and look. No. So I go into the store and ask, "Are our keys turned in?" No. So I go back to the car and repeat my search, getting a little more frantic. Finally, I call my wife, admit my ineptitude, then ask her to bring my backup key over. About 15 minutes later, she arrives, refrains from calling me the dunce, and aids in the search, repeating everything that I've done. Finally, she goes into the supermarket to leave our name and phone number for the possibility that it turned in. So I repeat the search with the same result. She returns. We agreed to give up. I get in the car, take the backup key, and move to start the engine. There's already the key in the ignition. Oops.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
We've all been there this year.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. All right, we're going to move on to some personnel. We're going to reappoint Patrick Kaminsky as a member of the Parks and Recreation Commission, as well as appoint Christine Dunn as member of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Christine Dunn will be filling the unexpired term of Al Vidable, moving her from the alternate to that slot, which expires on December 31st, 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will now go to courtesy of the floor. I'll turn it over to our town clerk, Diana Quast, to let us know who is going to be speaking tonight.
Our first speaker is Mara Zidens.
Mara.
Okay, it's my turn to speak.
Good evening. Yes, how are you?
Okay, well, as best as everybody else, I guess. Okay, I have two main concerns. The first one is traffic. Traffic. It's a mess in the Heights, probably other places in town. It's the same way, especially on our road. Halleck's Mill Road has become a throughway truck route, a speeder's route, and there's no enforcement in sight. Some time ago in the summer, Patrolman Rohr sat on Laurel Court and tried to get some trucks. We have tractor trailers, panel trucks, all the landscapers with their big trailers on them, oil trucks. The people that are using the road are a lot from Connecticut. And I mean, if you wanted to walk down our street, you couldn't possibly do that. I try to clean up the outside. My house is right on the curve across from Girard Court. I have lived in this house for 51 years. Wow. I have seen the development in town. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. I had a business in town which sold a couple of years ago, Bright Beginnings Preschool, Nursery School, Daycare Center. I rented space from the town. So as far as I'm concerned, the Heights area I have known very, very, very well. I think this situation must be addressed. I go out of my driveway, make a right, get down to the bottom. If there's a school bus, it's blocking the whole entrance from Ridge Street to Halleck's Mill. You can't make a right turn into town. We had years ago suggested that maybe the corner can be taken from that empty lot and a different entrance put into Halleck's Mill Road so it doesn't entice people to use it as a cutoff. A one-way street was once planned. Stop signs by Girard Court. There are two bumps on the road, but they don't seem to deter people. And if you're coming in from 20235 by the light by Baldwin Road and you're not speeding, you've got people sitting on your tail blowing their horns. And I got to make a right-hand turn into my house driveway. So I think this is a major issue in town and it has to be addressed. It cannot continue. That is, I'd like to feel safe. I'd like to feel comfortable. that I can live through my last days of life on this earth in a comfortable residential setting, not to be bothered by the extreme fumes that come from all of these people trying to cut the corner. I've done it myself. I've gone down and by the light, I've made a left-hand turn and turned around and came up Halleck's Mill Road again. You don't save maybe a minute at the most if you go straight and turn. And so the school buses, the new company does not enforce what the old company did, that they told their drivers, this is not a safe road to be on. And we don't have, except for one or two families, there's no more families with school children or even on Girard Court. There's Laurel Court, and there's one little girl that comes here that stops. So this is an issue that I want to see the town address seriously. And I'm sure other areas in town are the same way. I think regular enforcement, even 35202, I don't know whether state troopers have to come to give out tickets on those roads or the town does. But if you're going by the police station and you're going 40 miles an hour, you've got someone passing you in that left lane doing 50, 60 miles an hour and coming to a screeching halt in the middle of the highway there because it turns back into one lane. So I think the issue of traffic needs to be addressed very, very seriously. That's my first concern. The second concern is the congested development that's planned for the Heights. I read again in the paper that now where Soundview School was, that property is sold, and I don't know how many units are going to go in there. And also retail. Let me tell the planners and the town, retail doesn't work in these sub-communities. Nobody that's in a residential area wants to have stores there and to go shopping, and no one goes shopping in those stores. Look at the empty spaces that this town has. Offices and stores, it's terrible. We're like a desolate space, okay? So when I'm saying there's a lot of development, let me just review a few things. We have Beaver Ridge that will be getting new apartments. We have Rochambeau Court that already has some. The Wyant Properties 35202 is going to be developed. We have apartments that were built on Kear Street. We have the old apartments on Underhill Avenue that were built sometime in 1969-70, and now the Soundview property, and a hotel on Veterans Road and Commerce Street. Oh, please, people, you don't know that that's a totally, totally inappropriate space. And taking an inch from Veterans Road is not appropriate. That is the main route from buses to go up to Bosse's and to other areas in town. And I let the developers that want a hotel find a better space. There's commercial space down the street. The empty office building, maybe they could raise that or turn that into a hotel next to the gym place there. But something has to be addressed with all of these concerns. But my biggest concern is I cannot live safely on my road anymore. And I am very, very desolate, depressed about that, and really thinking maybe it's time to leave Yorktown. And I wouldn't like to do that. I had my business here for 34 years. I know a lot of people in town. I served on many communities for the town, committees rather, and I'd like to stay here, but I want a safe community for the people on my street.
Thank you, Mrs. Idens. We appreciate your comments. We'll address them all at the end, as we do for our courtesy of the floor. Diana, do we have anybody else for courtesy of the floor?
We have Rosemary Panio.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, and just stick around so we can respond. That's not a problem. Good evening. Is Rosemary, you there? Rosemary Panio?
Yes.
Rosemary, I think you're still on mute. We can't hear you. There we go. She's connecting to audio now. Hold on one second. It's connecting. There you go.
Okay.
Hello. Good evening.
Hi. How are you all?
We're good. Marie, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I just wanted to state that on behalf of the Senior Advisory Committee, I would like to thank the town board for their unanimous vote for the proposed Yorktown Senior Center. I was most pleased because you all demonstrated that Yorktown stands together for a good cause. And this center is long overdue. Once completed, it will greatly enhance the quality of life for our seniors and elders. I and the members of the Senior Advisory Committee stand ready to work with you to make this a reality. I am happy to work with the very talented people that you select to make this project and turn it into a reality. When completed, this certainly will greatly be enhanced and be a great asset to our community. So once again, thank you all for recognizing this and voting unanimously for this fine project.
Thank you, Rosemary. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Next, we have Susan Siegel.
Ms. Siegel, you there? Ms. Siegel?
Mrs. Idens, Rosemary, would you mind muting? Because someone has their computer on in the background, so I'm getting a little back feed. If you could mute yours, thank you so much.
Okay.
Susan, are you there?
No, you're not muted yet, Rosemary.
He's connecting.
He has no audio yet.
She just needs to connect and she'll be in.
There you go. Thank you, Rosemary.
Good evening, Susan. How are you?
Good evening and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you.
I have a financial. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The computer might still be playing, so there might be some.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've got. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I work with two computers. It gets confusing. All right.
Okay.
Okay. I have a financial question about town tax breaks for battery storage facilities and also solar farms. I don't know if you're aware of Section 487 of the state's real property law. That section allows developers of battery storage facilities and solar farms to apply for a reduction in their property taxes for 15 years. All a developer has to do is fill out an application for the tax incentive. And as long as the project meets all the state's criteria, the assessor has to grant the incentive. It's not optional. But Section 487 also gives the town the ability to opt out of the tax incentive program, either by passing a resolution or a local law. In fact, the state's website includes a long list of municipalities that have already opted out. So my question to this board is, have you considered Section 487's financial impact on Yorktown taxpayers? And have you considered whether you want to give the developers of these facilities a reduction in their town taxes, and that reduction would be in addition to all the financial incentives the developers are getting from state and federal programs, right? Yorktown opting out of 487 doesn't mean that you're anti-solar or anti-energy conservation. It just means that you're looking out for the financial well-being of Yorktown taxpayers. I am sure that your board can do two things at once. You can support and promote all the energy saving programs as you've done, but you can also protect our revenue sources for the future and the financial needs of Yorktown taxpayers. if you haven't considered the potential loss of revenue from Section 487, you may want to do that sooner than later, because there's a battery storage application that's currently very close to getting final approval from the planning board. So I would urge you to take this up at your January meeting if you haven't already discussed it, and exactly what the tax impacts would be. When you do discuss 487, there is an alternative approach. If you don't want to opt out, you can offer a pilot agreement instead of the tax incentive for 15 years. Now, I think pilot was mentioned in one of the early versions of the solar law, but it's not in the solar law now, and it's not in the battery storage law. So again, look at the numbers. I mean, speak to your town assessor, which works best for Yorktown taxpayers. The 15-year tax break, and I can't quantify that, the assessor could do that, or a pilot agreement. So I urge you to take that up. That's on that issue. Just on a separate issue that I think you may hear from other speakers about, and that deals with the fluoridation issue. I am urging you to please pass that resolution tonight to expend the additional $70,000 that will and proceed with the project. It was an unforeseen issue that has increased the cost, but this is a critical health issue, and I think there'll be another person who will be speaking about this. Please don't delay that until January. Just pass the resolution tonight so Michael Quinn can get in touch with the consulting engineers, and that work can proceed. This town has been without fluoride for much too long, and this affects everyone, from babies to senior citizens. So please do that. Thank you very much. And again, happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. Diana, who do we have next?
I have Carl Tegmeyer next.
Okay, Carl, you there? Carl, I think you're still muted. If you can unmute yourself, and the floor is yours.
All right, now you can hear me.
Yeah, thank you. How are you?
Okay, very good. As you know, I'm Carl Tegmeyer. I'm 2822 Farm Walk Road, resident of Yorktown, 39 years now. I did listen into the last week's meeting and the cost overruns on the fluoridation project. I sent you all an email with the letter to the town board sent prior to the January 2013 hearing on fluoridation, with the signatures of over 50 Yorktown dentists that support fluoridation, as Councilwoman Alice Roker alluded to. She also mentioned that the Westchester Commissioner of Health, Dr. Shalita Amler, a physician, was at the hearing because it is a health matter. She, like the 50-plus dentists, believe it's in the best interest of the people of Yorktown that basically the water be fluoridated. Every United States Surgeon General since the year 2000 has basically stated that you can't have good overall health unless you have good dental health. Sure, I mean, the cost overruns, they're upsetting, they're frustrating, and it's an unexpected expense to deal with for the town. But not having community water fluoridation over these past years has become a hidden tax on all of us in the community. We have seen in other communities when the fluoridation has been halted, there's been a 60% increase in dental decay in children. That equates to one more cavity per child per year, even with fluoride supplementation. The increase in cavities is not just limited to children, it's also community water fluoridation benefits all in the community, all age groups, especially seniors, and their susceptibility to root surface cavities. And that's the hidden tax. The dental costs to restore these cavities, either totally out of pocket, co-pays for if you have insurance, or co-pays for basically fluoride supplementation. The cost of this hidden tax far outweigh on a per capita basis any cost overruns with this project. The overruns are problematic, but on balance should not be a reason to not finish this project and finally get rid of this hidden tax on all of us and help improve the health of all Yorktown residents. Thank you for your time and for your consideration in this matter.
Thank you. We appreciate your input. Diana, do we have anyone else for courtesy of the floor?
No, I do not.
Okay. Make a motion to close courtesy.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I want to start with Mrs. Idens. Dave, are you there? Dave Paganelli?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Has the Traffic and Safety Committee reviewed Halleck's Mill Road? I know that, and I know Alice had brought this up, and Councilman Rokers brought this up. I think it was last year. I think there was some conversation about it.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here because Dave,
yep.
This is one of the areas that we needed a traffic engineer to look at.
Right.
And I think Mrs. Iden's right. And Dave has been out there. He has been out there on patrol countless times. And our feeling is let a traffic engineer tell us what the smartest thing to do out there. But there certainly is a problem. Yeah,
and I know that we talked just last week about a traffic engineer for the town. And is John Tegeter, is he with us tonight, John?
He was.
I'm here.
Here he is. Evening, John. How are you?
Good evening. I'm good. How are you all?
Doing good. I'm sure you're aware of Halleck's Mill Road, that intersection there, coming down over by Ridge Street and 35.
Of course.
Okay. And is this something that we're going to be able to take a look at next year with some of our professionals that we want to bring in to see if we can come up with a solution?
Absolutely. And it was also looked at in the comprehensive plan, although not in depth, but it certainly was identified as a road that has a lot of traffic and could use some at least traffic calming measures. Some were done, which is the speed bumps, but they don't keep everything off. And it is, we all know that it is a well-used kind of cut through. So it's definitely in the comprehensive plan to be looked at. So it's really been on the radar screen. Town boards have looked at it and have attempted some fixes, but definitely I think that with the traffic consultant coming on, if we hire somebody, we can take a very in-depth look at that and work with Dave's knowledge set to offer some additional solutions to it.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Dave, of course, to our highway superintendent, any additional input would be most welcome. And I just, the reason I asked Dave is because I remember you did bring this over to the Traffic and Safety Committee, and I know that you and I believe it wasn't Officer Rohr who is now on now. Was it Officer Dillon previously?
I think it may have been Officer Swart before he became a detective, perhaps.
Thank you.
But there is a relatively simple solution. The unfortunate thing is the real solution, and I was out there numerous times, and they are 100% correct. 78% of the traffic that was coming down Halleck's Mills Road, Connecticut, and coming back, it's the same thing. So I think, it would be a bit of a inconvenience for the residents, but there's a relatively simple way. I've even spoken to Jay Kopstein about this because he certainly has a tremendous amount of input and, insight into this type of thing. And, to make it a one-way, and if it were to be a one-way from 202 down, it would cut all that traffic in the morning, a no left turn on 202, which is where all the traffic is coming in from. Hardly anything in the afternoon is coming up from 202, making the right turn. I think we could safely cut the traffic on that road by 70%, but it would also then force the residents out to the controlled intersection, right, which is the reason everybody takes the cut through, so they don't have to go to the controlled intersection at 202 and 118. So, there are solutions, but there are no solutions that don't impact everything in a positive and negative way.
Right. No, I appreciate that insight. And I know that it's been discussed before. So hopefully next year, working with our planning department and our obviously our highway superintendent, and the traffic safety committee, we can advance and invest a more in-depth investigation into what potential solutions. And to John's points, it was identified in the comp plan. It's been an issue percolating for quite some time now. So we're happy to address that as needed in the appropriate manner with the appropriate agencies. I do want to bring in Is Kim Penner on? Kim, are you on? I see her. I just don't know. Kim? I saw the microphone turn off and then turn on again. Well, needless to say, I have had discussions with Kim specifically about 487 to Ms. Siegel's point, and I was hoping that she would be able to explain it if Kim could get on. But I don't think she can. But we have had conversations with it, and that's something that clearly the board has to be educated on and explore further. And I do appreciate Ms. Siegel's and Dr. Tegmeyer's comments on the fluoridation project. I don't think anyone's here to rehear that issue. It's not, I don't think anyone's here to debate it. It was just a matter of the $70,000 in overruns that the board needed to process and understand how we're going to cover that additional cost. And that's something that we're still working towards a solution on. I don't know if any board members have any other comments they want to make.
No, I don't think it was a complete, I don't think we said no to the project. I think it was a concern with the overrun.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, that's basically my point too. Thank you, Alice.
You're welcome.
Any other comments from the board on any of Curtis on the floor? Otherwise, we'll move on.
Hey, let me just say something, okay? This is really shame that we have not finished this much earlier. I'm looking the picture of the Commissioner of the Health and former supervisor and Brian Marshauser in the picture, and there are 30 dentists, and people were not sure whether they want to have it, and as soon as he came in finished, unanimously approved, and there was a $4 or $5 million fund balance in the water department. Why did not go forward? And I have a picture, and I went, and I'm looking at that picture right now, that fluoridation cannot continue where it was there, because I know how hydrofluoric acid and other chemical fluorine, injection works there. It was safety violation over there, and it's really, really bad that the entire window on the building was completely corroded. So that's why they shut it off. Now, it is the health is the risk. And I'm not a dentist, but those people, they came in here. I have a picture. I'm just looking right now on my computer. I think if you can spend $100,000 from the town budget, and then build that campaign type of, show business type of, truck, which you don't even use it, and you don't have 100,000 additional coming out. There are $19 million in the budget surplus. Okay, let's take it out of their budget or increase the 10 cents more in water usage. Okay, this is my request to the town board, that just do it. Okay, I have gotten 100 emails from Journal of Reproducible Results, okay, on fluoridation. And, there are fake news like that, okay? Let's listen to the doctors. Doctor knows the best, okay? Thank you to this board.
Thank you, Councilman Patel.
Let this project just go. I have heard this negative from the very beginning from two people. And do you want me to give you the name? I have right here. This is the budget, where it says 3.5 million, more than half of the district water balance was used up for what? Okay, to balance the budget, we can afford to take care of our children. Okay, we have a beautiful ball field, nice community. Let's take care of everybody and stay together. Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. It's like I always find myself saying these days, I don't have a time machine or a crystal ball, so I can't explain why things didn't happen, and I can't predict.
I have everyone
positive direction. And your thoughts and your comments are appreciated. We'll move to public hearings. We will reconvene the public hearing on the preliminary budget for the fiscal year beginning in January of 2021. Before we open it up to the public, I just want to see if any of the town board members have any questions. We do have our comptroller, Pat Caparel, with us. And so we'll see if any of the board members have any questions for the comptroller this evening.
Matt, or somebody else wants to speak first.
I think Councilman Roker was just about to ask, if that's okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
I don't have a question. I have a thank you. I had a question about the tax rates. Our wonderful comptroller did a spreadsheet, and I thank you for it.
Anytime, Alice.
Councilman Patel, did you have a question?
Yes, I have two questions. Let's see, the controller got the money. I don't have it right now. Anyway, did you get the message, that, we can just need a little money to fix it up the gazebo? There was some issue, so I hope there is something in that one, because I didn't get the answer back from controller.
That's in the Parks Department budget. That's where that would come from, Vishnu.
Thank you. You got always money. Anyway, okay, just the simplest questions on the page number 15, It was, I think, the 2021, let me see, in the last page, the tax levy is minus 0.88%. So that is a preliminary budget. But don't we supposed to compare with, the adopted budget? Because, what is the difference over there? Explain to the people here.
On page 15, you're comparing to last year's 2020, the adopted budget for this year, and you're comparing that to the preliminary budget. That's the one that we're dealing with right now, is the preliminary budget. So in the adopted budget, there was a 0.13% increase, and what you had voted on in the preliminary budget was a 0.88% decrease. That is just for general highway and library.
Yeah, ADF. Okay.
The entire budget.
But that's what the budget actually means, that this is the budget. Each and every resident, those who own the property, they pay on this number. And the other cars are others water and other cars, they are a la carte menu. So that is not part of the general budget. I agree with you. Okay, but this number will be changed. When will be changed instead of what you have it now? Next year? Because then it's not really, I have thought this, I should have thought it before, but is this the right way to put this number all the time in a budget? Or should be some kind of summary that, adapted versus the final and, the comparison of increase in next year. I mean, you can put any number you want on 2021, but is this the right way to compare it? I'm just saying, or you should have some other page, which I don't have it with me.
Well, this is the page that the board had wanted in the budget this way. If the board decides to change it, that's fine. Just let me know, and then we'll change it for the next budget. But for now, this is what, we had been doing for years, because this was at the request of the board at that time.
But is there any way we can have someplace put in a piece of paper that, just a comparison purpose, that, keep it blank, that 2021, this is adaptive, and then put another column or a next page that this is the way it's supposed to be done, because this number is not the same what will be actual number, next year, and we understand that one. Because things can change, budget is a budget.
Okay.
So you're going to put any page, summary or something like that, historical or something you mentioned it sometime?
Historical as far as what? Adopted or I mean, we have a sheet in here with all the rates in it when you're doing a budget-to-budget comparison. That that is reflected in here.
Okay, there is another question, and this is in the water, department, why do we need to reduce the water department budget? Because water department is nothing to do with the ADL. ADL is everybody pays, the water department and those who have the water and those who don't have the water services. So that is okay, but we do not have any money to do some things which you need to do. And every year, you see how much increase in water cost to produce by the state, and then whatever the water comes in is not very clean, require processing and maintenance and all that. So if you don't increase if you don't collect enough revenue, then you don't have all the fund balance. Fund balance is wiped out in the last many years. So this is really the time we should think that pay for what you use. Okay, so that the metering, everything, we're trying to do that. But if the prices of the water goes up, and if we say we did not increase the revenue, then where are you going to get the money? Because it will be a big hole. Not too far away from.
Didn't we change the law which says when the price of the water goes up, the water it automatically goes up for the people who get the water?
But this is not only because the water bill consists of other thing, not only the water. Because what happens, water you just buy and what you use it for. But how about the other, the increase in the salary, the health department, all these things, because it is expense. And money does not grow on a tree. I have a whole bunch of trees in my backyard. I have not been able to get one nickel out of those, So this is a concern I have that it is really good to show that, listen, we are very conservative when we spend the money, but cost of increase, we give it to our employee is a good thing to do because that's a negotiated contract. But where is the negotiated contract? You spend, and so many things are really, not being done. And we can just show that, hey, balance the budget. Balancing is a good thing to do. Also, we have to worry about how we're going to continue to provide potable water, because I spent a lot of time in, I had a secondary interest, even when I was at IBM, the water is a very important thing, really. A very small amount of water in the world is potable water. And that's why, I spent a lot of time with the students to study the water thing. And, even the COVID, look at that. It has a tremendous use of increase in the water, and then water has to be purified. So it costs money. So I don't know, I'm not really happy about this reduction, just only like a few cents,
Vishnu, can I just tell you that I spoke to Ken, the water.
Ken is not the one who decided. Actually, it's a board decision, right?
Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying.
I want to hear.
I asked him if there was enough money in the budget for him to do the projects that he needed to do. And he said, yes. I agree with you that it was a concern for me, but I get the water superintendent telling me that there's money in the budget for him to do the projects that he's got to do. I don't know what else to do.
But may I say something to the board? They had an issue with the equipment, and the equipment is so important that with that equipment not functional, and you have a whole very large 40 square mile infrastructure on the water line. Without that machine requires a lot of money to even keep on going. Even if it is new, you have preventive maintenance like that. And we have that money to buy a new equipment, and there is another one also, with the sewer. So we have to put away money somehow, or just bring the revenue somehow. This is just a seed to plant. Okay, I mean, this budget is already done, but we should think together. That what are you going to do next year?
Is Kenny here tonight?
Not on. I can text him and see if he's planning on joining us.
All right, because I rely on him, and he talks about what he needs and what he doesn't need. But I agree with Vishnu that we've got to be very careful in planning, and I think that I've done my due diligence by going to the water superintendent and saying, do you need more money?
Right.
Well, if you remember also, it was Kenny that came up with this budget. He was the one that inputted it into this. So, these were his needs at the time, which we all honored, both in the tentative and then when the board spoke with him during the preliminary. Again, he reiterated that this budget was fine. So
I think we've gone through 4 rounds with him, if I remember correctly, Pat, correct?
A number of them, yeah. And
once, then we met with him as a board, then we met with him again. Then individual board members went to him after the last time we met to ask him again about his budget. Overall,
this budget accommodated every one of his requests.
Right.
You know, so nothing was cut, nothing was altered from what he initially requested.
What will happen if because some of the equipments are $250,000 each, something like that, and it break down. So that was the issue. It was a discussion between two departments and two different machines, and it cost almost like $500,000 worth of maintenance or replacement or whatever you want to call it, So we have to put away the money or increase the revenue or whatever we have to do, because if it fails, they cannot shut the water off, This is just my view. I'm not saying this is a good budget. People like it. They don't want to spend any money, but they are expecting the service.
Well, the services aren't diminished. The service maintains the same level of services that people have right now.
No. Don't say that. I have people, they are asking that Yorktown water is no good. Come on now. Yorktown water is the best water, because I have a proof for that from the state, that, quality comes, but then locally, but pipe breaks, all the expenses comes out every day, every day, we know that. And they come with the, whatever we ask them, whatever we approve. And yes, we have a responsibility for the taxpayer that, spend as little as we can, okay? And then provide the service. Yes, there are circumstances people don't want to spend the money. And, we go to whatever the best we can. I agree with this. I'm not complaining about our budget, but next year, are we gonna do something like that? We should have some additional revenue or cut any expenses or whatever we want to do it. How are you going to cut the expenses? I think about 70% you cannot do anything with. 71%, okay? Because, those are the fixed expenses, and 2.1 or 2.5, whatever, negotiated contract, that is permanently increased. And the health, oh my God, that's another problem. We have no control. So these are the things we should worry about next year,
Vishnu, I think the more important problem than the equipment is something I've been asking department heads for a number of years, and that's infrastructure. Every time we have a water break, it's because the infrastructure is old. And at some point, there will be I believe the federal government will have an infrastructure program. And I think that because our water lines are so old, and they are, that those are part of the reasons that I've asked, particularly water, sewer. I know David has gone and clocked all of his roads. He did that during the summer. But I think the more important things are the things we don't see, like the water lines, the sewer lines. And that's really where if you have concern, where it should be. Or at least I think so.
And this budget, Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, but we spoke with Kenny. He's in the waiting room, Diana, just so you know, if you want to let him in. We spoke with Kenny, and he's going to be undergoing that hydrology with the consultants, the hydrology study for the first time. This budget,
he finally got one. He finally got a consultant to help him.
Right. Well, he hasn't. Mm-hmm. This budget's going to allow him to actually utilize them, which we've discussed with Pat to make sure he should be jumping on. Is he on?
Hi, I'm Ken here. Sorry.
Hey, Kenny.
Welcome to the party.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
Sorry.
Can we just, again, ask you one more time? This budget that we are looking at for the water department, this budget is one that you put forward with the help of our comptroller to achieve your needs for next year?
Absolutely.
Okay.
What else you would like to have it to make it your work to provide the services you want to have it given to the town? Yes. Yes, always you want to have something more, but necessary equipment. And there is always constraints in the budget. We understand, the number has to be added up, revenue versus expenses, So we are aware of that, But the employee want to make sure that they have the right kind of equipment to do the job. And amount of money we spend it to purchase the water and then collect. And there are losses. We understand, a lot of good thing has been done somehow to clean up some of the pipes and changing the meters and everything else, and changing the program to install, the commercial meter, so we minimize the waste and all that. But it's really, equipment is not part of the how much water you buy and sell it and make a profit, and there is some profit. You have to make it in at least to cover the cost of employee, the equipment and stuff like that, and that has to be addressed in the future. I'm not just saying this budget. We look it up, we approve it. Okay, I have no problem. Okay.
So I think that. Thank you, Councilman Patel, and Kenny and I have met several times this week, including today. Looking forward to next year. And I think the thing that we've identified, obviously, that we've talked about just last week is the water meter situation, trying to come up with a comprehensive approach for the water meter situation, which, as we've heard before, and we heard again today from a separate vendor, would increase the revenue for the water department. And so that's something that we are very focused on, looking, as you said, Councilman Patel, looking beyond this budget, looking to future budgets. How do you generate more revenue? And everyone we've spoken to is also the same thing, and that's a comprehensive water meter replacement program, and getting out of the rut and the hamster wheel that we're currently running in. And so that's something that Kenny and I had a conversation about today with more consultants and vendors, and it seems everybody we talk to keeps saying the same thing. Pat was a part of that conversation as well. And when we talk about the financial structure of the water department, the efficiency that continues to rise is the water meter situation. And so looking forward, that's going to continue to be the priority. That's going to continue to be our priority as we work towards a solution to address some of the issues that you've raised. And
what about up front?
What's that, Councilman?
I'm sorry. I was talking to Carol. I thought I was muted. We have a heat problem.
Oh boy. Get that taken care of. Okay. Any other questions for Kenny?
Yes, one more question. Just a few years ago, maybe something years ago, the water tank failed. Joint Waterworks, about the $2.2 million the project. It has to be done right away. So, if you and that has to be done. So it was done. Cortland wanted to use a little bit more water, so they gave a 1.2, and a town one. I want to make sure that I'm saying it right, that $1 billion was bonded. I got to make sure. This controller can verify this one for me.
Yeah.
This kind of situation, So if something you really want to do and is important, then we have to bond it. Something just to make sure that we have something before, so we can afford to, offer the homeowners the services without any interruption. Because if that tank was not done, there is not enough water to go around both sides, and it was for some time there was a problem.
I completely agree with you, Councilman Patel. There's no doubt about that. I think that there's obviously a difference between operating budgets and capital improvement budgets, and so this, from an operating standpoint, still covers Kenny's needs, but also allows him to take steps in the capital improvement side as we invest for the first time ever $600,000 into water relining. So it does accomplish that. And again, with our focus moving forward, to your point on how do we get to that next level after this budget, we hope to have that solution through the water meter program and a comprehensive solution and a comprehensive approach to that, so we can stop the piecemeal. That's, as I stated before, you're looking at 24 years for a 20-year product. It just doesn't work. So that's.
But no, let me just say, okay, this is the last thing I want to say. We tell the people that you need the whatever water, and it's very important. It's just not only drinking alone. Many use in the water in the house. So if somebody tells that water is expensive, so we should educate the people that listen. These are the costs every day. And running the town is a different expense. But then there are some capital project comes in. If there is emergency something, we have to bond it. Just like a fluoridation is a part of very important project. And the reason it was delayed and everything, you don't need to go around back and everything else. But we have to make sure that these, some of the guys don't know what is the difference between fluorine and effect, and the dentists are telling us, and we change in 100% right away. And the entire board approved, and now all these little thing going. I have gotten so many emails. I don't want to say any more again about the emails. But I think let's together and move forward. This do good thing. Budget is good, and I'm ready to go. Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. With that, if there's no other questions from the board, we can open up to the public. I'm sorry, I have one. I apologize. I did have the phone rang earlier. Ed Safone called in. He couldn't get onto the Zoom. He had a question, Pat, on the unassigned fund balance. I believe he said it was page 8. Give me 1 second here. Can you just, if you can just speak?
I was just looking for it too. Did he say what the question was?
He just
because we can only quote the fund balance as of December 31st of last year.
Right. And so can you just explain the unassigned fund balance, what the unassigned fund balance is, so the public can understand it, and what percentage that is for the entire budget?
Well, it's only the general fund that can maintain an unassigned fund balance.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're discussing it, we're just discussing what was in the general fund.
Right.
It's on page 19. Was that the one that he was referring to?
Yes, that's correct.
So as of December 31st of last year, as per that page, it's $16,688,000. And these numbers are derived from the auditor's reports after they audit our books for the year and close them out.
Right. And so we'll go through that process again this coming spring.
Right.
That will give us an updated number as to what that would be after.
And it'll be quoted as of December 31st of 2020.
Right.
Right. Because it's just such a moving target. Anytime a deposit is made, revenue goes up, the fund balance goes up. Anytime we issue any checks, the fund balance goes down. So it could be quoted minute to minute, which is why I cannot quote you a fund balance other than as of December 31st of the previous year.
Great. Any questions from the board on that? Nope. Then we'll go back open to the public hearing, and we'll entertain testimony from the public. We'll go back to Diana Quast, who will let us know who's going to speak.
First, we have Mark Lieberman.
Great. Mr. Lieberman, good evening.
Good evening. You guys were drowning me in the water issues. So thanks again for letting me participate in the budget hearing. And you touched on this a little bit, but I don't think you cleared it up completely. So 2 weeks ago, I pointed out that the actual tax rate, my town tax bill, was $168.35, not $169.75, which appears on pages 16 and 17. And if you look at page 17 and you go through your calculations for the preliminary budget for a homeowner with a typical $1,000 assessed valuation, you have the calculation for 2021, which shows $2,263.57, and using your rate of $169.75, using your rate of $169.75, you came up with $2,263. But if you use the actual rate of $168.35, then the 2020 typical assessment bill with utilities is $2,621, not $2,276.60. So therefore, where you show an increase of $13.03, the number should be a decrease. I'm sorry, you show a decrease of $13.03. There actually should be an increase of $3.36. Is the actual.
Mr. Lieberman, you might have froze.
Rate for 2020.
Oh, there we go.
So I was saying, my question is, are you showing the actual rate for 2020 on page 17?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, do you want to address this again?
Yeah, let me pull up the spreadsheet on this one. This is based on the assessment values that we had
Right.
at this time.
Right,
That
but
I get
as
the rates from the assessor when I'm computing out the budget.
right, but as I sent each board member my tax bill, hopefully they all received it, and you could look at your own tax bill. The number is actually 168.35, not 169.75, which changes the calculations on page 17.
Okay, well, I will look into that for you. I'm frozen right now. I can't get back on the computer. That's exactly what I'm trying to do right now for you.
Okay, so I don't know how you want to leave this. As I said last time, once you know an actual rate, you should show an actual rate.
Were you able to get into your computer?
Nope, I'm frozen. I'm completely locked.
Okay.
Do you hear it in the background? That's me trying to get back on.
There you
All
go.
right, well, I'll let you guys work it out. I don't know how long you want to wait for the computer, but just for the holidays and everything, imagine you all have a glass of wine and we're celebrating everybody's holiday and a good and happy, healthy 2021.
No, you can have it. We can't.
I feel like you're bragging right now.
Yeah, right.
You do some go orders? Maybe he can deliver to town hall. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. And a happy 2021 to you as well and to your family.
Okay. Thank you.
Now we have Susan Spiegel.
Susan?
Yep. Hello. I'm back again. All right. Before I make any comments on the budget, I want to go back to the fluoridation project. If the majority
focus on the budget, though, I mean, it's a budget.
Yeah, well, this is money, okay, and it's money from 2020. It's money to 2021. The issue is not where you're going to find $70,000. You've got in the budget book. It says that as of December 2019, your fund balance in water was $2.6 million. I know it's a moving target, but let's, for argument's sake, say you have $2 million in the fund balance. All right, I think you can afford $70,000 for the health of our community, and that's not an issue that you should have to think about. You're not going to meet again until January. Typically, the first meeting of the year is going to be routine stuff, so this puts it off until mid-January. You lose an entire month. We have lost years and years of non-fluoride. Please vote for it tonight, okay? And there's no reason to delay. You don't have to find the money. The money's going to come from the fund balance. That's it, all right? There's no magic other place to find the money. So please, I urge you to vote for it tonight. Let me
town
get back.
board members needed to get their information settled so they're comfortable making that vote, Susan. That's what it comes down to.
What was there to think about when this is a health issue? The money would come from the fund balance. There's no other place it's going to come from. And I think the delay is unconscionable.
I think the board's been very clear that we're not here to re-debate the issue. The board is supporting the fluoridation project, but it comes down to management of the project and the finance of the project, and that $70,000 in overruns when only 30% of the project is completed. It raised some concerns with the board that they have to individually get comfortable with. So that's what
comfortable and vote for it at the first. All right, let me get back to
the testimony regarding the budget. Thank you.
All right, I have lots of I have some general comments, and I'm sorry that there wasn't a more fuller discussion just among board members at the work session on December 8th, where you could have addressed a lot of the comments that were made during the December 1st hearing. There are very many. Let me zoom in on the water district. First of all, Alice, you made a comment about some spreadsheet that you had, and you didn't explain what that spreadsheet was.
The one that was in the budget, Susan. The budget.
The historic tax rate chart?
With one with the tax rates, yes. All I did was explain what that was.
So you're not changing the numbers.
I've amended this one. okay, but gave a full explanation as to how those numbers were derived.
So,
and it was
so
budget to budget.
It's
not
budget to budget. It's not actual.
That's
so
correct.
Before I get to the water district issues, which there was, I appreciate that full discussion. Let me pick up on what Mark Lieberman just said. Mark raised the issue December 1st, and I raised it. The fact that the budget, when you're comparing 2020 to 21, you should be comparing the actual rate of 2020 to what you're proposing for 21. That's the honest way to tell your taxpayers what the change is year to year. When you do all the other pages in the budget on the revenue and expenses, you have actuals for 2018. You don't show what was budgeted, you show the actual. For 2019, you show the actual because you have those final numbers. You even show the actual for what you've spent in 2020 up until the day that the page was printed. There is no rational reason why you're not showing the actual tax rate for 2020 when you have those rates. Those are the real rates. And as you explained at the hearing, the rates change between the December budget and the April, when the April taxes go out because the assessed value changes, which is perfectly understandable. After the meeting, when this point was raised and the importance of it was raised, as Mark explained, instead of telling taxpayers with, again, the typical household with the assessed value of $10,000 with water, you're telling them that their tax bill, their total tax bill for the town tax, refuse, water, and emergency services, you're telling them that it's going down $13. But as Mark said, it's actually going up $3.36 when you use the actual tax rate that was paid in 2020. So that is being transparent. It is being honest. The town has historically used the budgeted tax rate, all right, when they do these comparisons. I did it when I was supervisor. I didn't realize the difference. But when I realized it this year, I said, wow, this makes a difference. Just because we've done it for, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years this way doesn't mean it's the only way to go or it's the right way. When we realize we've made a mistake, it's time to change that. And right after the public hearing on December 1st, I sent you a spreadsheet that laid it out. So all the board members had it. And I sent it also to you, Pat. So you saw the difference between using the budgeted rates for 2020 and the actual rates for 2020, which were taken directly from the tax rate sheets. And
not
that was
arguing that. No one is arguing that, Susan.
So this should be shown in the budget. If
Absolutely,
you want.
In the next run. I cannot go
it
back
should be
and
done it should be done now. There's no reason why the pages can't be changed now. So you show the actual page. Okay. So you show it the actual pages now. You had from when this was brought to the board's attention on December 1st. There was ample time to change those pages, to change the historic chart on page 16. The comparison chart on page 17, and I don't know if any other charts, any other pages had to be done. There's no reason, once the error was brought to your attention.
Oh, it was, okay.
To continue that. So I urge you to please do that, because if you're going to adopt a separate adopted budget, there might be some changes. I brought two relatively minor typos in the budget, and I would hope that those would be changed so they're not there for posterity. I won't go back and explain those because I think it was clear. Those were just inadvertent, typos, type of mistakes. But they were significant because they dealt with people's understanding of the taxes they paid. The water district. I have to say, and Ken, I hope you're still on, on this call. I have to say, Ken, you're a good soldier. Right? You knew that the town board. I'm here. What? You knew that the town board was kind of constrained in terms of the taxes. And so you kind of went along with them. You weren't asking for everything that you have said in previous meetings that your department needs. The $600,000 for cement lining, that's fantastic that they finally put it into the budget, okay? But you need, I don't know, between $2 and $3 million. The board knows this. The board knows how important it is to do the completion of the water meter project. And I am so glad to hear you moving ahead on that. You have also mentioned the importance of the needing funds for repainting the tanks. So to say that this budget includes everything you need, as I say, it really doesn't, because your needs, and the board knows the needs, because I have watched board meetings where you have explained these needs. The water district, it desperately needs critical infrastructure projects, and that has, so there is no excuse for actually decreasing the water district tax. Granted, the user rates have been increased because they had to be increased, and that's the major source of your revenue. But the tax rate is also an important and raises over $1 million. And it wouldn't make that much of a difference if you even increased it by another dollar. Okay, it wouldn't hurt people, and that gets into the tax levy issue. So I urge you to take with a grain of salt Ken's comment to you. And Alice, you made this point. You asked Ken if he was happy with the budget. He's not going to come in and say to you and say to the board, "Oh, I'm very unhappy with this budget, and I really need, $500,000 more." He's just not. I heard every department head at the budget meetings, back in November. They were all very nice and polite and very agreeable to you. And no one basically said, "Oh, I really need more money for X, Y, and Z."
Susan, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you.
Okay, but I don't think you can disagree with me.
I'm not going to let what you said stand. I spoke to Kenny, not on television, but in person, and I asked him, "Do you have enough money for next year?" And you know what? I have fought for him for the last couple of years to get money. And he said, "I am happy with what I've asked you to do." I don't think you are aware, you're including the water meter project in there. And I think you sat through our meeting last week when we talked to a company that has agreed that they would like to do our project in Yorktown, and we do not have to lay out any money up front. I believe we're going to be speaking to another company. So it's not, I know in the past what we've talked about, but I tend to think that Kenny has a brain and is not constrained with me to tell me what he wants.
Well, if you gave Kenny $1 million instead of $600,000, he could do more on the cement lining project, because he has told the board, and I have been at the meetings where he's told the board that $600,000 is just for a piece of the project, and that there is a greater need. So he certainly could spend $1 million as opposed to $600,000.
Susan, he could probably spend $12 million. The point is that it's responsible budgeting.
Well, the point I'm just saying, and as I say, Kenny is being a good soldier. On the water meter project, I also sat and listened to that project. And I am very glad that there is concern on the board to complete that project. But after that meeting, I sent you a list of potential issues and questions, and I hope you've had the time to look at that, because that was one way of financing the project. But I think there were a lot of questions about it that certainly need more explanation. The other thing on the water meter project and the water district, I asked you at the hearing December 1st to look at your water purchase line. You've increased it slightly. Kenny has explained, and it makes sense, that the customers are using more water now because they are more at home. And in fact, so you've not only increased the revenue for next year, but also at that meeting, you had to increase your water purchase line by, I think, about $850,000 because you were purchasing more water.
Right.
But that kind of increase is not reflected in the water purchase line in the 2021 budget. How can you increase your revenue but not the water purchase? It just, the two don't go together. If you're going to expect more revenue, that means you're purchasing more water. So I urge you to look at that line more carefully. The other comment, and I would welcome the comments from the town board on something else I said on December 1st. If you increase, have you given any thought to increasing your town tax by $5 for the typical homeowner, with the $10,000 home, a $5 increase? I asked Pat and also Dave to weigh in on this. If you increased it by $5, a total of $5, not $5 on the tax rate, but a total of $5 in the tax bill, how much revenue would that generate? My calculation, and Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, could add about $600,000, okay, to the town tax. So if that number is correct or anything close to that, then I would ask Dave, how many more miles of road could you pave for $5? And do you think the Yorktown taxpayers would really object to paying $5 more in their town tax bill? And I just ask you to think about that. I know there's always pressure to reduce taxes, but people also want safe roads to drive on. They want their drainage fixed, all right? These are critical issues for our residents. So what would $5 be? And Pat, could you estimate that if you took $168.25 and added $5 to that tax bill, would it come close to $600,000? I did it using
direct your questions to the board, and we'll direct them to our department.
Well, so I'm asking you, to look at that, and again to change the tax rates to the actual tax rates for 2020 in this budget, and do it this year. And that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. Anyone else, Diana, for public hearing?
I do not have anybody else that registered with me now.
Okay. So I'm going to go to the board. Does the board want to?
I'd like to make a comment, Matt.
Sure.
And I know we had a lot of discussion as individuals, and we had discussion of the board about the not raising taxes this year. And, I want to, people say, what is $5? That's the question right now. And I do a lot of work with different food banks, shelters, pantries, and places where people are hurting. The lines lining up at the food pantries are unbelievable. $5, you know what? And I was looking and I was thinking in that exact type of scenario, what does $5 mean? And $5 could mean dinner for a family of 4 with like a chicken quarter and some rice and maybe some vegetables. So that $5 means a lot to people right now. And I think that, even looking at other municipalities in the area and even our county, they decided to not raise taxes and to try to lower to help people out. And I think that as a priority, our roads, yes, need a lot of work, but our citizens, the people of the town, they need to eat. They need to pay their bills. They need to get their medications. That $5 with everything happening with COVID right now means something. And I have put a lot of thought into it. I know I've spoken to quite a few people, and I really think that that's important, that we do not touch that.
Can I make some comment? This is my opinion and view. People ask, there are hungry people because of the many reasons. They don't have a job, COVID, whatever, family issue. and people are so generous, give a lot more than what they have, you know. So $5, many people have given more than what President of the United States paid the taxes many times in our community, okay? So $5, if you own the home, yes. If you want to do good thing, you know, we have to tell the people, okay, that this is the option. How many times you have gone and asked $5 or $1, okay? People give it. They are generous. People don't have it. They give it too, you know, because they care for their community. So this is for the entire community, not just only one person. Everybody gets the water and everybody has to pay. You go to the gas station, 5 cents went up or $2. It was a $5, $6 a gallon of gas. People go and buy it. You know, what are you going to do? We cannot control this price. What the price goes every day on the food. You go to the grocery store, $1 up on every vegetable, okay? So these are the difficult problems. We cannot solve this kind of problem. But the water problem is a very unique problem because I have a newspaper and I just couldn't find it. There was about 20 some years ago or maybe 25 years ago, Yorktown is running out of water, okay? I have that newspaper. I'll find it. So this is the kind of thing we have to think of it. Yes, there are people, those who don't have money, they still give little. If they don't have money, they give a little food, something. And we are a very proud community that we are all together to do good things for our community. That's why they have put us over here. And we are good people. We work together and we have to do good things, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Matt, could I?
No, I've got a comment. I'm going to agree with both of my fellow council people. And you mentioned Dave Paganelli, and again, Mrs. Stiegel, I don't think you listened to, I'm not sure that you were brought into the meetings we had with the different departments because David was the first. And he has an idea for how we'd like to contend with his roads, in addition to getting the money that's already in the budget scheduled for to pave the road. So there is another thought on how we will get it done. And I think it's actually a very good thought. Do you want to talk, Dave?
Well, if I can, before I don't know if Dave's there because he's probably busy preparing for the storm, but.
No, I'm here.
But in Dave's defense, he's done a very good job with the roads.
Excellent.
And I also just want to make sure that, it's a bit unfair to the residents because people are mixing apples and oranges. You're mixing operating with capital. Those are apples and oranges. There's a difference between paying your utility bill every month and paying to get your driveway repaved. I mean, you manage those very differently at your dinner table. And so I think that from our standpoint, from an operating perspective, this budget accomplishes what it needs to keep and maintain the same level of services, and in some cases, expand those services for the residents of Yorktown. And we're able to do it in a responsible way, to Councilman Lachterman's point, that it doesn't hurt people who are already on thin ice financially, considering the times and the challenges of today. Now, for the highway superintendent's standpoint, and forgive me if I take words out of your mouth, but he did a fantastic job advertising what he had available to him this year. Again, remember, the state pulled back some of his CHIPS money on the paving. But he was still able to accomplish an awful lot. And to Councilman Roker's point, yeah, he has some creative ideas that help us achieve more. But what we have this year in the operating budget allows him to continue to make sure that our roads are safe for our residents and address his most immediate needs, including we've identified some things like Old Crampon Road culvert, so we can begin moving that project forward in the appropriate way. That's all included here. And Dave, I don't mean to take words out of your mouth, but I do want to compliment you on what you've done.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the fact that we are all working on a creative solution to sort of catch us up on our paving issues. And I think that, all being said, without any impact to budget whatsoever, we have some great plans that could come to fruition, and would be very surprising to everyone how much we're able to accomplish.
And again, the key there though is net zero on the budget, and that's what we're always looking to do. How do we achieve it? Just like the water meters, how do you achieve a full implementation of a water meter project without passing on the costs and trying to find and going into debt in order to do it? I mean, that's the balance. But it's also very important, again, I just want to emphasize to everyone home, think about your operating budget and how your house runs every month. Think about the expenses you pay every month, and then think about those one-time shots, your driveway, your roof, replacing I'm having this conversation at my house. I have to replace my fence. That's not an operating expense. That's not the monthly bill to pay for the electric. That's a capital improvement project. You have to, in my house, I don't know how everyone does it in theirs, but you save up the money and then you pay for it once you are able to afford it.
Yeah.
Or if you want to look at it from a debt perspective, you put it on one of my wife's favorite things, and that's the credit card. But those are your two options. But let's be honest of Yorktown. We're talking operating versus capital improvements. And from an operating standpoint, which is what this budget is, it's the operations of the town. From an operating standpoint, this accomplishes what each department had asked for. Any other comments from the board?
No, I think I'm pretty good, Matt.
I'm good.
Okay.
Matt, so you know, I just got a text from Kelly to see if you could stay in my spare room after that.
I know, I shouldn't have gone there.
Yeah, you won't be in the doghouse.
That's for sure. It's okay. I
Well,
love it.
at least we did get the heat working, so you're good there.
That is good. Yeah, that is good. What's the board desire? Does the board want to adjourn? Does the board want to? Is the board?
I'd like to vote to. I'd like to make a motion to vote to adopt.
Well, you have to close. I'm sorry, Diana. Correct me. Did we?
You have to close it.
You have to close it first, and then you can adopt.
Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Can I make an additional comment to your comment about separation of operating and capital budgets? It's important because it deals with what Dave said and what you've said, and also Alice. If we use Dave's suggestion about borrowing to do the roads because he identified certain roads, if we borrow money for that, okay, or we borrow money for the pump stations for Hallett's Mill, or we borrow money to do some of the important water department projects, debt service is an expense in the operating budget. So you cannot separate unless you're funding it from a fund balance, and we don't have the money in certain funds to pay for that. You're going to have to borrow money, and that's an expense. It's an expense in the operating budget. So please don't separate out operating and capital and make capital sound like it's something else, all right? Because it's not. And that issue for borrowing, and we do know that the town is looking to borrow if you want to do that culvert project, okay? If that's highway, you don't have the money in the highway fund balance. Maybe you can transfer it because it's ADL. Right. But this gets to the tax levy issue, and I'm not going to go into an explanation of the tax levy, but your tax levy is $1.4 million less in 2021, you're proposed, than what it could be. And this is going to hurt you when you do your 2022 budget, when you might have some additional debt service. And I remember your salary increases, which are already mandated with union contracts, are going to add about $500,000 to your expense budget next year if everything else remains the same. So your expenses are going to go up next year, all right, assuming you don't cut anything, and you don't know what your revenues are going to be. And this gets to your tax levy, and then you want to add on possibly some debt service, which is part of your operating budget. So I'm asking you to please think about that before you close the hearing and vote without making any changes in your budget. Thank you.
And if I could just ask, before you close the meeting, will you be changing page 17 to show the actual rates?
Our finance department will Pat, will our finance department be updating the chart to make sure that it's reflective of what you're trying to accomplish there?
Absolutely.
Supervisor, can I speak for a moment?
Of course.
Okay, this is the second time in 2 meetings that my fund balance has been referred to, whether positively or negatively. I'd like to just state for the record that the controller and I have been working for 7 years at Highway to bolster our fund balance. So currently, we'll come out of 2021 with over a 2020 rather, with over a $2 million fund balance. And I just want to be very clear on that, that's 33% of our operating budget. So I think that, between Pat and I, we've done a great job with respect to fund balance. So I'd rather not anyone refer to my fund balance anymore. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, so let's just Diana, help me out here. So I think we had a motion.
We have a motion by Councilman Lachman to close the public hearing.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'm going to explain why I'm going to second it. I raised that issue in terms of if we have a lower budget this year, our tax levy goes down next year. And I think I think everyone agreed that they were aware of this. My concern is exactly what Ed said. We are fortunate that we were able to collect all of the town taxes, most of the town taxes this year.
Right.
But that does not tell us what's going to be on the horizon for next year. And I think people assume that everybody in Yorktown has a lot of money because they own a home here. And we all know that's not true. I've worked for a couple of charities. We all know that it's not true. And so I am going to vote for this budget, which basically keeps the taxes at the same level that they were last year.
So we have is that a second, Councilwoman Roker, to close?
That was second.
Public hearing. Okay, so a first and a second to close public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
If I may point something out, Councilwoman Roker, something that I did not know, and Pat educated me to, thank you, Pat, was that if we do not take an increase, we do not lose the whole amount of what we lost cap-wise if we find a need next year. Some of that could be clawed back in.
Carryover.
Yep.
Correct.
So thank you for that education, Pat.
Okay.
Motion.
You want to make so we're going to make a motion to adopt
the budget,
the 2021 budget.
I already did.
Can I make just one comment before we just adopt it? There are issues will come, many ways. But in a spirit of cooperation, I will go with the current budget proposal.
Right. I'll second, and as Alice.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Roker, second by Councilman Lachman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Councilman Patel, how are you voting?
Sorry?
I just need Councilman Patel to let me know how he's voting.
He just voted affirmative.
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear him.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you to the board and thank you to the public. And we'll go back to our finance department when you print out the final run of the budget. If you can include the changes that Mr. Lieberman had pointed out, I think that'd be helpful for everybody. Okay, we'll continue with our agenda. We're going to convene another public hearing to consider the application filed by Ready Imaging, Inc.
Good night.
Good night, Pat. By the way, I want to say a big thank you to Pat Caparel and her finance department. A fantastic job on.
Thank you very much.
On the finances
Thank
this
you.
year. And I think, as we said earlier, it's a real team effort.
Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome, Dave.
Excellent.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to take this opportunity to sign off as well. Good night, and thank you for passing the budget.
Kenny, go home.
Appreciate your support. Thank you.
Kenny, we're good.
Kenny, you're good. Kim, John Tegeter, if you can stick around, we're going to be going over this way. You can be a part of this conversation. Kenny, thank you for being there.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody. Good holiday season to everybody, and be well,
holidays,
please.
Kenny.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to convene a public hearing to consider the application filed by Ready Imaging, Inc. for an amended special use permit for a gasoline station located at 1917 Commerce Street. I'm going to ask the town clerk to just show the advertisement. Thank you very much. And who do we have? Do we have someone on behalf of the applicant joining us tonight?
Yes, can you hear me? This is Al Whiting from Ready Imaging.
Al, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
We're doing good, thank you.
Good.
We appreciate your time, and if you wouldn't mind, you want to just briefly describe for the board again and the public what you're proposing to do.
Sure. I think I can share a drawing on that. I'm going to try to. Let's see if it comes up.
Diana, can you let him share his screen, please? Thank you. And I see that we're once again joined by John Tegeter, our town planner, director of planning. Excuse me.
He's able to do that.
Okay, well, that didn't work, so let me try this. Can you see that?
No, looks like you turned off your camera. If you could turn your camera back on, and then the bottom of the screen, the green button that says share screen, if you could click that and then click on the window that you want to share to show.
Yeah, I did that, and I can see it, but for some reason you can't. I'm not quite sure why.
Okay. Well, this is in regards to the current BP gas station that it's going to be changing over from BP to Extra Fuels, correct?
Yes, it's a BP gas station. It has a BP sign cabinet on a single pole right now. It does not have any means to display gasoline prices. So the brand is going to be changed from BP to Extra Fuels. And what they're proposing is to put a combination cabinet on that pole that displays the Extramart logo and allows them to display gasoline prices using an LED. The new cabinet is exactly the same size as the existing cabinet. It's going to be the same height, no increase in size, and no change in location. And so that's basically the entire thing.
Okay. And I see that we've received, and I want to thank the town clerk's office for referring these out to all agencies. We have received some feedback, including from the Conservation Board, who provided no comment. We also received a comment from the Planning Board. The Planning Board, and again, I want to bring in our Director of Planning, John Tegeter. The Planning Board had specific comments about the pole freestanding, about the freestanding sign that is proposed. It says the board recommends taking the opportunity to redesign the freestanding sign as a monument sign. While acknowledging that the site is tight, the board would like the applicant to investigate if the sign can be redesigned to be more in character with the Heights area, whether a monument sign or two-pole sign instead of the monopole sign. The location would not cause sightline issues as both adjacent driveways are one-way entrances. Can you want to just discuss what was said by the planning board?
Sure. This is the existing BP on Commerce Street, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So looking at the presentation materials, which included photos, the board saw that there's the potential to modify the sign in its general location of where it is to either a monument sign or a double pole sign. It's been the practice when rebranding comes in to gas stations and other commercial entities to try to go with signs that are in keeping with the recommendations in the sign manual, which basically asks that we try to do either double pole signs and in particular try to do monument signs. So we do that with, for instance, we spent a lot of time with the sign at Lowe's, for instance, to make that look and be a little bit more, have a visual presence to it. So that is what they're asking. It appears from the pictures that there is a little bit of room there to do either a monument sign or a double pole sign, and be very aware of the height and the implications of the height of the sign. So that's what they're suggesting.
Are you saying that they never visited the planning board?
We had the referrals, and I don't think it was attended by the applicant.
Any comments from the applicant? Have you?
Yeah, I have visited the site, and I'm sure you're all familiar with it, but it's concrete and asphalt, and I honestly don't know where a monument sign, where we could put it. Those are typically put in, landscaped areas where there's, you can do some landscaping and you have maybe shrubs or mulch or something like that. I just don't know where a monument. To me, a monument sign is has a very low profile. There's a lot of cars parked around this sign right now. I'm afraid if we put a monument sign there, it would be very difficult to see.
Would you consider the double pole?
Well, a double pole, sure, would be fine. What is the height that the town allows for freestanding signs?
16 feet.
16 feet, okay.
Now,
I'm curious why you would want to see a twin pole sign there rather than the existing single pole sign.
They look better.
Yeah, okay. I agree with that, yeah.
Generally when an applicant comes before the town board and they have something visual that they want to change in the town, we ask you to go to the planning board and kind of get their feedback, because we rely on them in terms of making a decision.
And I just want to remind everybody, just so it's in the context of the conversation, is that Commerce Street has had in the last number of years a lot of effort and work put into its, aesthetics and so forth. So we've done the streetscape, we have all of the street furniture, the lighting poles that we do. Looks great during Christmas time, as it does right now. So, so we care about it. We think about it on another level, on a deeper level. So when these things come in, that's the the content of the discussion.
John, can I ask a question? Is this the town requirement, by BACA and everybody else in town board, or they are asking us to do because of their proprietary, sign or anything? Because I was not really sure whether the issue was this is their proprietary sign, by the company they own, or they want to make their own, sign correction, size and everything else.
I'll let the applicant answer that, I think, but I think it's they're rebranding the station, so right. It's proprietary sign, with a logo and so forth, and so they're looking to change it. But when we do modifications, typically we ask that the signs be changed to try to be in keeping with the recommendations of the sign manual. They are recommendations, and we try to work with everybody. It is a tight space. It's acknowledged in the memo. It looked like there was some space that is not a parking space, to at least do the double sign. When we spoke about the monument sign, it wasn't it wasn't viewed that you could set a wide and broad monument sign, but rather a kind of a solid plinth, really, of the same width that the sign is proposed at, but go up, a certain height to do it in that way. But, the point is to look at the design and to improve the aesthetics of the site to be in keeping with the streetscape.
One of the reasons that this area is included in the flexibility study is so that we can get some kind of uniformity there. Not everyone with wearing the same color clothes, but some basic uniformity in that area, which there is none.
And I think it's important to point out that the planning board and in their memo and in their discussions did not ask for any of the proprietary elements of the signage to be changed. It's just the display of the sign, whether it was a double pole or the monument. And a lot of discussion was put there. I think, John, they also spoke about, to enhance the elements by conforming the building to those colors. Yes. And also removing some of the extra signage that's up there that is becoming a little bit of a eye clutter nuisance.
Yeah, they didn't have any discussion or comment on the color scheme itself or the individual colors. That's fine. The building colors should match what the sign is. There should be some composition there that is pleasing. And then there's a lot of signs on the building, and they thought that those should be removed.
Does the applicant have any comments on the signs?
You mean on the building sign?
Yes.
Well, the building currently has a green facade, green fascia to it, which is not an extra fuels color. So that is going to be painted white. Okay. That might have to wait until spring now, but that's going to be painted out. And there is some temporary sign on the building advertising the service bays and so on. We can easily remove those. That's I don't see that as a problem.
Yeah, well, there are. I also just want to in the context of that conversation, we should all be reminded that there are specific regulations in the gas station special permit governing the number of signs, the amount of signs, square footage, and so forth. So really, since they're in rebranding, I believe that you should be looking at the whole complex in terms of the signage and make sure that it's either in keeping with what's in the regulation. You do have the authority to modify those. It's explicit in that special permit. So if it makes sense, you can modify it up or modify it down. But you should probably be looking at everything on the building and everything on the site.
I'm going to ask that we adjourn this public hearing and have the applicant visit with our planning department.
When's your next meeting, John?
Monday.
Sorry, Councilman, do you want him to go to the planning board or the planning department?
John, what do I want him to go? Do I want him to visit you or the board?
I'm happy to have him visit me. That's fine. Happy to work with him. If you want him to go to the board again, that's fine too. They meet on Monday. I can try to find a spot for him. It's really up to the applicant if he feels that he's pressed for time and would like to meet with my department. I'm happy to do that.
John, but when it comes to signs, would it go to a BACA or would it go to the planning board?
A BACA does a lot of work with the sign permits. So what'll happen here is that a BACA will see this as a matter of course when it goes for the actual sign permit. Typically, I think that's what usually happens and should happen. So
usually it goes
probably a good idea to get to them beforehand so that there's no other surprises later.
Oh, because it sounds like the applicant's accomplishing two of the three, right? So they're accomplishing the building colors are going to match the brand because it's going to be going white, away from green to white to match the extra colors. And the applicant's committed to removing the illegal banners that are on the building. So it's just a matter of the monument sign.
Yeah.
I think if you look at any recent gasoline stations we've dealt with, and it's been the same where we've talked to them about monument signs.
Or double pole.
Or double, well, mostly it was been monument signs.
Correct. I understand. I think, though, looking at the site, and
double pole.
The planning, the planning board, I think, recognizes it. And I think the applicant recognizes, that the double pole would be a viable option, correct?
Yes, no problem with that. John, offhand, do you know what the allowable square footage is on a twin pole sign, or overall square footage allowed at the site?
Offhand, I don't have those numbers, but I can get them to you tomorrow.
That'd be great.
We can talk tomorrow. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. That'd be great.
A couple of things that I think, why you're here. I'm not sure if they came up during the planning meeting or one of our meetings, but there were some comments about the amount of parking there, parking on the street, cars for sale being parked there. And there was a question in the park, the amount of parking and the restriction. I had the question of the two clothing bins that are there that I don't know if are actually licensed through the town, which is part of our code, that all of those boxes are supposed to be licensed, and there's a fee on them to keep them from being an eyesore. So it's just something, if you're making some notes to look at, those are definitely some concerns that have been brought up.
And I know that the boards, I know Adam Rodriguez is on, and we had originally a few weeks back discussed no parking zones for Commerce Street in conjunction with the Traffic and Safety Committee, and our Highway Superintendent, as it was both White Hill Road and Commerce Street. So those are things that we were continuing to push forward anyway, to restrict on-street parking on Commerce Street.
Right.
Okay. And what was and the timeline for the gas station rebrand was what? Sir? Did we lose the applicant?
Oh, he's on his phone.
Yeah. Are you there?
I think he has to get back in.
Yeah, I think he has to get back in, Diana.
He's not on yet.
Okay. He just connected to audio.
Connected to audio, yeah.
Did we get you back?
Yes, I'm sorry. I lost the audio there, but I'm back.
Okay. And when were you planning on having the rebrand?
Well, as soon as we can get approval. The lead time on these signs is anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. A new sign, a new twin pole sign would require concrete footings be poured. So that's another element that we would have to deal with. So it's 6 to 8 weeks probably.
Okay. Do we want to go to public? Do we have anyone for public hearing?
Jay Kopstein.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kopstein.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes. Loud and clear, sir.
Loud and clear.
I had a prepared statement, but I don't want to duplicate what other people have said. First, I don't think the board should be looking at this at all right now until the applicant brings this property into conformance with both New York state law and the town code. Mr. Tegeter, Mr. Lachman both mentioned the collection boxes and the unlawful signs. On a daily basis, there are cars parked on the sidewalk. I've been down that street where a child on a bicycle or a caregiver pushing a carriage can't make it down the sidewalk between the cars on the sidewalk and the light pole at the eastern end of the property. And when there are cars or small SUVs on the street, they can't even go into the street to get around. I've counted as many as 4 cars on the sidewalk at one time. As we all know, and Council Member Roca was there, Police Officer Raw spoke to them about the cars on the street and described to them how it was a safety hazard.
He did.
Instead of ameliorating that condition, they poked a finger in our eye by started parking cars on the sidewalk at the same time. I think the town board has to deliver a message, have the site inspected for compliance with both the New York state law and the town code, and not honor or consider any application until there's conformance with both. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kopstein. Anybody else for the public hearing, Diana?
No, that was the only request.
Okay.
I just have some information here. I just looked it up. The freestanding sign is limited to 30 square feet for each sign face. So.
You know, with everything that's been said tonight with regard to the station, and I'm sure that the new owner doesn't want all of what's being said. I think that this requires us to pause and during this hearing until the planning board or planning department have met with the applicant and the building inspector has gone out.
I do know that our code enforcer, I've asked him, and he's gone and visited several times. And the problem is that on the street parking issue, that's all I've asked him to look at. Since there's no parking zone, there's nothing for him to enforce, which is why we wanted to move that no parking zone forward. Beyond that, on the site itself, I've not asked them, and I agree. I think that it makes sense for the building inspector to take a look at the site to make sure that they are up to code, obviously. So I have no problem adjourning the public hearing either. Councilman Lachman or Councilman Patel, thoughts?
I feel the same. I do agree with Mr. Kopstein that they need to be getting things in order, but I personally am a fan of working with the applicant. So as long as they're getting things done, we can consider to move things, but we should definitely let it.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem.
So let's leave it at this then. If the applicant can make an appointment with both our director of planning and work directly with our planning department on the sign issue, and then we also ask the applicant to speak to our building inspector. I think it's important for our building inspector to walk the property and to provide an inspection to make sure that there's no other glaring deficiencies that need to be addressed. I think if we can accomplish both of those and then come back to the board early in January, then we can hopefully move this application forward.
Yeah, and if we can get the Public Safety Committee to tell us what they want to do in that area.
The Traffic and Safety Committee?
Yeah.
I think it's Officer Rohr's in support. Well, I don't want to put words in his mouth. I believe that they're in support of I know Dave is in support of the no parking zone because again, there's no law.
No legislation. Okay.
Right. We need the legislation. So we'll make sure that we focus on that and get that done as quickly as we can. Okay. So we have a motion to adjourn the hearing.
I said motion.
Motion. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. We'll adjourn the hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then we will convene a second public hearing, and our town clerk's already holding up the advertisement. This is to consider the application filed by Station Glow for an amended special use permit for a gasoline station located at 3205 Crampond Road.
And Matt, for clarification, this is the one down past BJ's at the bottom of the hill there?
This is, John, this is the one, is it that or is it the mobile?
This is the mobile across from Lowe's as far as I understand.
Across from Lowe's.
Right. Okay, sorry.
John, have they come in to visit with you?
No.
Do we have do we have an applicant available?
Unfortunately, we do not. The applicant that was on earlier had a family emergency and had to leave.
Okay. We wish them well, whatever they have to deal with. Do we have anybody for the public hearing? Anyone from the public who wants to speak?
I have no one that's requested.
Okay. So just, I think in that case, we can adjourn this, but just for the record.
Let's not open it.
I'm sorry?
It's better to not open it than to adjourn it. Because the applicant hasn't, it's not fair to the applicant if they're not here. But I think someone needs to tell the applicant they need to go visit with the planning board. Because, you know, I'm not sure if they're all aware that even though it may be for a sign, you've got to go over to planning and to ABACA.
Right, and it's the same comments as the previous.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna, instead of chasing our tail, I'm fine with it.
My recollection is that when I talked about it at the town board, I believe on the night that you referred it out, I think we did talk about the monument sign, and the applicant was on that night, and I did think that he said, you know, he was willing to look into that, but I don't think that we heard from him during the night when we saw the planning board. So
okay,
I haven't heard from him since, really.
So then, John, if you could, you and I can reach out to you, or I can reach out to the applicant to let them know that we would like them to. We're going to give them the same orders. I mean, they're going to.
That's fine.
You know, they should come to either to your department or to the planning board to discuss the monument sign. I think in that site it makes sense, especially.
Sure.
Yeah, because of the location. So before they come back, let's make sure we have that conversation with them as well. Okay.
Sure.
And we're going to consider this not to be opened, correct, Councilwoman Roker?
Right. We're not opening it.
Okay. Very good. So then we will move on to resolutions. We'll take them together. Authorize the supervisor to exercise the option to extend the contract with AAA Carting, Inc. for the collection and disposal of residential refuse and recyclable materials. To authorize the following employees to carry accrued 2020 vacation time to be used in 2021. Just as a point of information for the board, we had tabled this last week because it needed to be updated. There were a few adjustments that needed to be made in consultation with our finance department and human resource department. We're going to authorize the comptroller to process a budget transfer for the highway department, and we're also going to authorize the auction of motorized and used equipment that's obsolete, no longer needed for public use by the town. Motion. Give a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motions carry. And that concludes the business before the board. I want to wish everyone again a happy Hanukkah. Our next town board meeting is a week from tonight. That's a work session. I also forgot to mention that the CCSE is going to be postponing their meeting, which was originally scheduled for tomorrow. We'll be postponing that at this point to January. And so with that being said,
Matt, just on that, the Veterans Advisory Council meeting for tomorrow has also been postponed to the third Wednesday of January.
Very
I
good.
think it's smart to cancel every meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
After 9 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly. So again, I also want to remind everyone to just continue to monitor the town's. Thank you, Diana. I want to remind everyone to monitor the town's communications tomorrow with more information on the upcoming storm. And last but not least, the most important, I can't believe I almost forgot to mention this. If you or more importantly, your children would like to write a letter to Santa, please, there's a mailbox courtesy of the Yorktown Museum and the town clerk right outside Town Hall. My son dropped off his letter for both him and his little sister over the weekend. It was one of the highlights of his month. But feel free to do that. It's a great service and program being run by our museum, and they'll be getting a letter back from Santa as soon as it can be written. And I want to again thank Diana. Diana, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. With that being said, Yorktown, please stay safe, make responsible choices. COVID's not done, neither are we. So let's make sure that we're focused on protecting each other and protecting our families, protecting our neighbors. And with that being said, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
And
all in favor? Aye. Have a great night, Yorktown.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you to the town board.
Don't forget
your batteries, phone, everything tomorrow.
That's right.